Hi, my name is Joseph. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk about entrepreneurship, spirituality, and universal downloads. So this video, I wanted to talk about a spiritual awakening because I realize a lot of people don't know what a spiritual awakening is, and I feel like, honestly, I feel like only the people who have experienced a spiritual awakening understand what it is, why it's needed, and kind of like what happens after during the process and what happens after. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my spiritual awakening because mine was super intense. So I'm not going to go into like vivid detail. And then I'm going to pull some cards for everyone in the world who's currently going through a spiritual awakening and what it is that you need to know about, the current energy of the world, what's happening, why you're experiencing some of the things that you're experiencing, and how you can move on from that. So let's just get started. So I've gone through several awakenings in my life, but my first spiritual awakening happened when I was, I think I was 19. No, yeah, I was 19. It started when I was my first spiritual awakening actually, excuse me, it actually lasted, Jesus Christ. It actually lasted for 4 years. And during that time period, my life was, it was from 19 to 2019 to I think 23, 1923. Okay, 5 years. So it was like 5 years. But I feel like the last year of it for me was the most intense. But also that was around the time that, because I started my Saturn return. I started my Saturn return a year earlier than most people. So I started my Saturn return when I was 23. Most people start around the age of 24. So that all of that contribute to the things that I was experiencing. So so I was for the longest time, I struggled with speaking to dead people. Not struggle with as in I was struggling to do it. I was struggling to not be able to do it. Because throughout my life, I was condemned for it. I was condemned for being gay. I was condemned for being psychic. And I live with my family and the people that I was living with at the time, when I was much younger, how I kind of started this process in my life, how it reemerged. I was living with them, and then all of a sudden, it just kind of came back to me, where there was a lot of things happening, and I was honestly kind of losing my mind. But they didn't understand what was happening to me. I kind of understood what was happening, but I also wasn't expressing what was happening to me because I was living in fear. When I was gay, and at that time, the people that I was living with, they tolerated me being gay. They didn't actually like the fact that I was gay because there was a lot of things that happened also around that time with the fact that I was gay, and it just wasn't working. And I continued to stay in a very toxic situation because I love these people. And then also when it came out that I could speak to, that I was psychic, then it was like, okay, well, you're not going to be psychic here because I'll kick you out. And my living situation was threatened a lot of the time. And at this time, I was like 18, 19. Yeah, I was like 18, 19. So yeah, that's kind of when everything started. So then moving on from there, I was still going through this process where I was like lying to myself and I turned into a legitimate bitch. Like I was angry at everybody. I hated the world. I didn't like people. But one of the things that I didn't realize at the time is the reason why I didn't like people is because me being around people, especially during that time, was work for me. I would have to silence myself and make sure that I get in this place where it's like I did not want to be seen. I didn't want people to talk to me because talking to people gave me so much information about them, about that person, about their lives, about things that are happening to them. And then sometimes it would just be a whole bunch of dead people telling me shit about them, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. I didn't really know how to deal with myself at the time because I felt like at this period of my life, I felt like, because I lived in a situation where it was like, oh, if I'm invisible, nothing's going to happen. If I stay to myself, if I'm quiet, even though I lived with people who loved me, but at the same time, I felt like I lived with people who had resentment towards me because they didn't really understand me. And I really wasn't communicating with them in the way that I should in order for them to understand me, but I also didn't feel like I had the stage for that to happen. So therefore, it got to a point where I was alone a lot. I didn't really hang out with anyone that I was living with. I wasn't really part of the family. I was just there. And also there was a lot of other extenuating circumstances at that time in my life as well. So Moreover, I mean, I don't know why I just said moreover. Is that a word people use? Anyway, that was weird. Um, anyway, when I eventually moved out, and I moved in with another family member, and things were a lot better there. And it's like, again, this is still something that me being psychic was still something that I was not talking about. It was still something that I was not expressing with other people. Not to feel it. At the time, I had one cousin that I was living with, and I love her so much. We don't talk as much as we used to. I feel like she had some inclination that I was psychic, but it's not something we've ever outwardly talked about. And actually, one of my aunts too, but it's not something that we've ever actually talked about. So then I met my friend Josiah. We don't talk as much as we used to either. And he kind of took me on this journey of like discovering myself and helping me to cultivate my abilities and really just understand them for myself. And that took me on a journey of living with him. And at one point I got arrested and I was in jail for a year. And that was me getting arrested, being in jail for a year. That was a journey in itself where I went on this whole spiritual journey and I found out so many different things about myself that I didn't know. And a lot of these things were scary. They were shocking. And it was like a whole bunch of like negative things came to the surface, but they were things that I needed to be aware of in order to heal. And about my spiritual journey, let's just stop right there. I wanted to now talk about like what a spirit, like my understanding of what a spiritual awakening is. A spiritual awakening for me, or my understanding of one, is the absolution of all that is and all that isn't. What that means is that when you go through a spiritual awakening, everything starts to look different. You know what I mean? You really start to see the inaccuracies of reality. You really start to understand that emotions, your thoughts, your energies, your interactions with other people, how you let other people show up in your life, you really start to understand that all of these things will affect your reality. Meaning the things that you experience, the things that you manifest in your life, the things that you allow to happen in your life are also manifestations. A spiritual awakening is like taking off, having a veil on, right? And then suddenly just having it ripped off, where it's like you are literally standing outside of yourself and you're seeing every aspect of yourself that you've been through the many different cycles of your life. And you're realizing why your life is the way it is and why and the trauma that you've experienced when you're younger, how that plays a large role in your life right now. The thing is that a lot of people, when they go through a spiritual awakening, when they get to that trauma part, when they get to like, oh shit, I didn't realize this was something that greatly affected me because I wasn't talking about other people. People wasn't talking about me. We just kind of moved on from it, that this shit is still affecting me. People tend to just stop right there. Fuck this. This is just too hard for me. And, also during a spiritual awakening, it's very normal and it's natural for you to get to the point where it's like, damn, I don't like anything about me. That's normal. Because when you get to that point, it's like everything has to change. Everything has to change. A spiritual awakening is literally designed for you to step outside of yourself. It's designed for your third eye to open, for you to expand, for you to literally expand on not just what you know physically in the world, but what you know spiritually of the world, of yourself, of the things that you experience, and how those things play a large role in your life, and how they are continually affecting you if you're not actively dealing with them, healing them, and trying and being intentional about the change that you need to make in your life to manifest the things that you want to manifest in your life. Okay, I'll give you guys a minute. That was a lot. Okay, you're done processing? Great. Let's move on. A spiritual awakening is also one of the most grueling experiences you will ever experience in your life. You get on TikTok and YouTube and you hear these people say, I had a great spiritual awakening and I was just so happy. That is bullshit. Maybe that is for some people. But I've been doing readings for people for, at this point in my life, for like 12 years, because I realized I was doing readings for people before I knew I was doing readings for people, and the realization of that when that happens as well, because that would happen for you too, that's a mind fuck. That is a mind fuck. When you get to that point and you realize that, okay, before I go there, let me finish this thought. Sorry, my bad. A spiritual awakening is not like sunshines and rainbows. Maybe, like I said, maybe it is for some people. But a spiritual awakening is designed for you to look at your life from a different vantage point. It is designed to give you intentionality about the things that you are experiencing, to understand that sometimes in life, you need to just sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, and sit with the emptiness that is there in your life. Because in that emptiness, in that emptiness, there's such clarity. And then when you sit there and you go through that emptiness, you will find that it's not emptiness at all. It's a different type of understanding that comes, and that clarity that you get from looking at all these different pieces of yourself, facing the darkest parts of who you are, meaning that whether you were raped, whether you were abused, whether you were, like anything, it doesn't matter what it is, but facing that shit head on, healing from it and understanding, and then you getting to a point where you understand that the things that you experience weren't because of you, they were because of other people. And then in that same breath, understanding that, okay, this person was fucked up. It's not me. And understanding, okay, I need to forgive this person. I need to heal from this, and I need to forgive this person. I need to let this go. I need to not have this to be continuously a part of my story. When I say story, I means that the things that we experience, especially when we're younger, we create stories about them. And we unconsciously tell ourselves that, okay, this is how life is. So this is something that I will continue experiencing because this is fucking life. That is bullshit. We have the power to change all of that. We have the power we have the power over our unconscious mind to dictate to our unconscious mind what is true and what isn't. You know what I mean? Because we tend to go by the things that we've already experienced. And instead of when we experience terrible things, they just aren't experiences. They become part of our story. They become part of who we are. And therefore we tend to expect these things to happen again and again and again and again without even realizing it. Why? Because we don't pause. We don't stop. We don't take that time to really look at our lives and examine, why do I keep experiencing the same thing? Why do I keep being with men that cheat on me? Why do I keep ending up in this abusive relationship? Why does every friendship I have end in fucking disaster? These are questions that you should be asking yourself. If you're experiencing anything that happens in a cycle, you should be asking yourself why, especially if you're going through a spiritual awakening. Also, if you're going through a spiritual awakening, it's not a time to be out in the world and doing a whole bunch of things and just being around a whole bunch of people. You should be spending a lot of time with yourself. And yes, break up the monotony. Go out and have some fun with people that you can trust, people that know what you're going through, people who understand what you're going through, are not going to judge you through the process. But a lot of time, a spiritual awakening, that's a solo endeavor. That's something you go through alone. I mean, it is what it is. So I have my Dark Mirror deck here. It's one of my favorite decks. I use this quite a bit. And I'm just going to pull 3 cards, and I'm going to give you my interpretation of what these cards mean. And this is for anyone who is going through a spiritual awakening. Oh, a card just fell out the deck. All right. So I don't forgot how to pronounce this, but the card that I got is, Perfect Acceptance. I love this card because I tend to only really pull this card when I am doing readings about, with using this deck, and I'm doing readings about like spirituality or self-development or, just shadow work in general. So this card usually comes up when I'm doing those type of readings. So this card to me, even though it says perfect acceptance, this card to me is about self-acceptance. It's about let's make it broader, right? Let's say it's just acceptance on a grand scale. It's acceptance of who you are, the things that you experience, the things that you've done, the things that other people have done to you, that has caused you to have a certain outlook on life. A lot of the time, what stops people from moving forward in this spiritual awakening is their own understanding of what acceptance means. Because a lot of times, when I've, helped people go through their spiritual awakenings, they feel like accepting something was the allowance of that thing in their life, meaning that, okay, I just because I've accepted this happen, it just means that I've forgiven this person for the experience. No, that doesn't mean that. It means that you've accepted it. That's it. You have accepted that you have experienced it. It does not mean that you have forgiven the people involved or forgiven yourself or even let go of it. Another thing about acceptance is to me, acceptance is the truest measure of your ability to love yourself, right? Because we must first have to accept the things that we've been through, how these things have affected us, and how we have felt about these things, how we felt about ourselves because of those things. We must first accept those things in order to change them. Because without acceptance, there is no realization of those things being there. So right now, if you're going through a spiritual awakening, you need to sit with acceptance. meditate on acceptance. You know what I mean? Where in the realm of acceptance do you still need to have an epiphany? Because that's what this time for you is calling for. As always, I hope this helps. Leave me comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know things that you guys want me to talk about. And of course, like and subscribe. Again, my name is Joseph Benjamin. I am a psychic medium. And on this channel, I talk about spirituality, entrepreneurship, and universal downloads.